How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins led by the Baconator and the Dark Elves who are going to be led by Mommy Dearest. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So in the front line, we do have a couple of groups of Black Orcs. So in total, I think we have 2 Black Orcs, and then in the middle, we do have the Crimson Killis. So I figured I'd give these guys a try. I've been on a bit of a kick with them. I'm trying them in a multitude of different matchups, and I've been having some pretty good success in matchups in which there isn't Fate Buna. So obviously, a Fate Buna on these guys is just absolutely devastating, because you're spending, what, I think they're like 13 or 1400 gold, and yes, they're very powerful, and if they're allowed to sit and sustain combat without taking a bunch of damage beforehand, they can do a lot of work, but I definitely would not recommend taking these guys in matchups where, Fate Buna is going to be a thing. Marathi does have Melkoth Mystifying Miasma and Soul Stealer, but again, they're not going to do nearly as much as like a Fate Buna, which puts them down to like 20 or 30%, which is just absurd. So, Black Orcs in the front line, I feel like they're pretty good, and as far as trading with Harganeth Executioners have a little bit less armor. They actually have more melee attack than Black Orcs, which is interesting. But of course, Black Orcs do have the advantage, I think, with the charge bonus and weapon strength. Yeah, they definitely do. But the Harganeth Executioners do have a bonus versus infantry, so I haven't done the testing, but it looks like it may slightly favor the Harganeth Executioners when you take into account the bonus versus infantry. But that's where the Baconator comes in. So we have the Baconator here. WURRZAG, definitely my favorite lord for the Greenskins in terms of like competitive play. Effigy is very good at snaring down Marathi and Malekith and big targets that are going to be trying to goon ya. But more importantly, every time you cast a spell, the Bonewood Staff triggers on your entire army, giving 13 melee attack. So that's going to give, as long as you're perpetually casting the buff spells, Fist of Gork, and Ere We Go, you're going to be giving your Black Orcs the advantage they need in the front line to win against these Dark Elf troops. So we do have those 3 right there. In the secondary line, we have our Goblin Firing Squad. So we have Goblin Archers, we have the Rustiers here in the middle, and one more group of Goblin Archers on the far side. So that's going to be able to take out Marathi if you had like a Death Hag on an altar, for example. That would be the tools we would need to take those guys down. You can see my opponent coming in hard already with the Melkoth Mystifying Miasma on my Crimson Killis, which is definitely a good idea. It still does okay damage. I would definitely recommend trying to get as many of those off as you can before the Crimson Killis gets to your front line. So, protecting archers in the back, we have 2 Nasty Skulkers, which is pretty much a staple. So if, for example, these Cold One Knights come in, or any sort of other pressure, even like Dark Riders, these guys are a great answer to them and can slow them down and generate a ton of value. On the outskirts of the army, you do have a couple groups of Goblins with a couple Chevrons, just because I had some extra money. But the Goblins are great. Silver Shield, so if your opponent is playing with Handbows or Dark Riders with Repeater Crossbows, you basically just use the Goblins to intercept them, or just to eat a Cav Charge, which is always a fun time for the lads. Top of that, more Morgub's Fainting Marauders, Death's Creepers, and we actually are going to be trying out the Moonhowlers. We have the Moonhowlers, the Regiment Renowned of Goblin Wolf Riders. They cause fear and have okay stats by Goblin standards. 30 melee attack is definitely not a joke. And I think we have another group of Forest Goblin Spider Riders. That's pretty much it. For my opponent, he does have Marathi, Soul Stealer, Power of Darkness, and Melkoth, pretty standard stuff, with of course her sword, which I think gives a melee debuff to my troops as well. Frontline Harganeth Executioners who are going to be supported by a Death Hag right here in the middle, which isn't terrible against Greenskins. Greenskins typically have a lot of lightly armored troops and, bonus versus infantry, poison, definitely helpful stuff. A couple Dark Shards in the back, 1 group of Spears, and 3 Cold One Knights. So if there's a matchup in which Cold One Knights might be okay, it's probably going to be this one. I feel like it's pretty easy to outclass Greenskin Cav, and these guys can potentially shut down my Cav game and get some good charging action going on, assuming they don't rampage. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now I'm going to be advancing my forces, and you can see the Melkoth did some pretty good work, but we didn't lose any models, and hopefully that'll be the only one I have to take. So knowing that he has a couple groups of Dark Shards, it's very important to shut them down to keep my Crimson Killis and other high-value targets alive. So I start to skirmish around with my Death's Creepers and my Mangy Marauders, just kind of poke in, prodding, trying to find an opening in my opponent's formation. And you can see he's going to be turning his Dark Shards here to try and screen me out, which is a good play. He's also protecting them with some Cold One Knights, so definitely not too many openings right here. I do have a lot of skirmishing units, but over here I wanted to use the Forest Goblin Spider Riders and the Moonhowlers to try and overwhelm these Cold One Knights with the support of WURRZAG and some of these Gobos. But it looks like he's going to just be doing a frontal charge, which is something I've been seeing quite a bit in the metagame. Against Black Orcs, it's a little bit risky. Here, another Melkoth going down, definitely a good play by my opponent. But he does kind of overextend a little bit in the front, and I'm able to get in there and get a charge with my... and a lot of people don't expect this. They're going to be like, oh, Death's Creepers and Morgubs, they're like Skirmisher, Archer, Cav. But, you just come in and get a nice little charge, and, it's not going to do a ton of work, but it does disrupt them initially. And as soon as my opponent comes in here, I do retreat. So he'll probably still get some. So he charges in the front here. The Cold One Knight's getting a good charge against the Crimson Killis. But as soon as I'm able to stabilize and get some work going on these guys, it is going to be pound town for these Knights. So the Crimson Killis are going to turn and start fighting here. I also engage with my Goblin Big Bosses, and the Baconator is here, but I think I got a little bit crazy with how I accidentally overcharged. But I do pop some buffs here in the front line. There we go, and look at the damage the Crimson Killis did. Just in a second or two of engagement, they munched those Cold One Knights. On the far side, the Cold One Knights did a very similar charge against my Black Orcs, and they were about to pull out, And that's not a bad idea. The Harkonneth are already taking the brunt of it, get the charge bonus to the Cold One Knights, but what I did is I wrapped up and around with the Forest Goblin Spider Riders as well as the Moon Howlers, and I get a great collapse. And now these Forest Goblin Spider Riders, you can just see spears and axes flying up in the air. These guys are going to be poisoned, which is great. So they're pinned, they're poisoned, and I'm going to get some pretty good value. But more importantly, guys, they are trapped for a fat foot of Gork coming in. So here it comes, and boom, just stomping the yard right now. And you can see these Cold One Knights and these Harkonneth Executioners just get destroyed. Especially those Cold One Knights, they really took the brunt of it. But from here, we should be able to overwhelm this formation very, very heavily. On the far side, you can see that the Morgulf's Mangy Marauders and the Death's Creepers are going to be circling around looking for an opportunity here. And I did send in the Moon Howlers to shut down the Dark Shards, but my opponent was able to catch me out with Marathi as well as some of these Cold One Knights, so the poor Howlers are not going to be long for this Earth. But the Crimson Killers did actually go down to the front line, only got 10 kills, so I think the magic focus and my opponent's very heavy pressure with the Death Hag, some of those other tools were able to mitigate the effectiveness of my Crimson Killers. So right now I just have a couple of nasty Skulkers fighting here, and my front line's about to collapse, which is tough, because that's going to open up all my Gobos. So WURRZAG, I decided to pull him back, I get my Crimson Killers, and my formation over here that was able to just so heavily win is now going to be collapsing here in the middle. On the far side, you can see the Morgulf's Mangy Marauders are just going to be shooting into the Harkonneth Executioners, which is a great trade. They only have 4 kills right now, but this is good. The Black Orcs are probably going to be able to win this with the support of the Mangy Marauders, and from there push forward. And also I'm going to be sending in the Death's Creepers, because these Dark Shards were doing a ton of damage. So getting these Death's Creepers in here just to swarm on these guys is going to be great. And Death's Creepers have really good melee stats. I think they have 32 melee attack and or defense. Yeah, wow, 37 melee attack. That's really, really good. But Bounce Power is a little bit my favorite. Marathi's going to be coming in trying to Alpha Strike WURRZAG, which is a good choice. So this was definitely a very tense moment. Marathi has anti-large and AP. Not that she needs much AP for WURRZAG, but the Cold One Knights are coming in as well. And my formation is very exposed. I kind of got collapsed a little bit over here and committed most of my forces to winning this flank. So it's going to be a little bit dicey. So the Gobos here are making a sacrifice for their Hog Lord and Savior, who's going to be running. So right now I reform ranks. I get my Goblin Archers back. I'm just going to be falling back behind this formation of Goblins and Black Orcs that I actually have fighting here, and also sending in my Forest Goblin Spider Riders to try and do my bidding. So my opponent looks like he's going to be trying to disrupt the Rusty Airs for a moment and probably go after WURRZAG as soon as he's done with that. Over here it's looking pretty good. Black Orcs did win that engagement. I have some Goblins coming back here on the far side, and my Goblin Skirmisher Cav are just doing a great job of pressuring Dark Shards, just going after a bunch of high-value targets. So right now I thought I was in a pretty good situation. I get the Baconator, I see that Marathi's kind of trapped here, and WURRZAG is a pretty powerful duelist. So I can actually pop the FG of the Get here in just a moment, which I believe I do if memory serves. We're able to pin her down, and yeah, there it goes. You can see that Marathi is going to be stuck from the FG of the Get. Does quite a bit of damage, and I actually thought I could finish her off right here, but she was surprisingly durable. You can see I have a pretty good little surround. What I should have done is moved up my troops and tried to get an actual hard surround, but I just wanted to optimize the time I had just to get as much damage in and maybe break her, but it was not the case. So my formation over here does get run down a little bit, so those Black Orcs I had that won this engagement just got overwhelmed by the sheer number of Harkonneth Executioners, as well as this Death Hag, who seems to have been doing a pretty good job in the front line with all that poison. So now a lot of my guys are going to get overwhelmed, so I have to pull back. Granted, my Bacon's in pretty good shape. You can see the Baconator here is okay. We're going to be popping some, I think he's popping a Soul Stealer on me right here, which is going to be good. Yeah, that's a really good one, because it's going to hit all of these troops. I was a little bit bunched up. So at this point, realizing that I just had some Goblins and some Death's Creepers kind of holding it down, I start to fan out my troops. So I get my Morgulf's Mangy Marauders and my Goblins over here, and I'm going to just start shooting at whatever I can. So these Harkonneth Executioners coming in, and Marathi just trying to poke her out of the sky. But the lads are holding pretty well. I mean, and here comes a great Foot of Gork. It looks like the Foot of Gork just destroys those Cold One Knights. So that's the second devastating Foot of Gork we've had this game, which, those guys, there was a lot of Cold One Knights left there, but not after that Foot of Gork. So the nasty Skulkers come in, and they should be able to pin those guys down and break them. They have 2 leadership, 99 HP, but man, they were fighting to the bitter end. You can see the lads with their prison shanks. Oh yeah, he's not going to live here. He is going down so hard. Yes, and he gets prison shanked by the lads, and down he goes. So the Baconator now is on the hunt. We're able to get Marathi back up in the air. She did try and snipe WURRZAG, which is, whenever you play Marathi, that's a really good way to play her. Just like sweep in, get 1 or 2 charges, or 1 or 2 attacks, and then leave ASAP. She's not like the greatest at sustained combat, but she has pretty good burst with her anti-large. So right now, the Goblin Archers, I have a couple rallying back here, which is going to be nice, because we kind of have my opponent caught in a bit of a weird position. So I use the Nasty Skulkers to slow him down, and I have all these rallying Goblins. So back here, the Rusty Airs, I have these ones. I have a Skirmisher Cav here, so I kind of have him in a bit of a kill box here. So I can just start shooting at whatever comes in. Marathi is danger low, so I don't think that she can afford to land. Granted, if she's able to snipe WURRZAG, he could potentially pull out a win with the Death Hag and Marathi doing some good cycle charging. He does also have some Dread Spears and some other troops coming back, so this is definitely anyone's game at this point. So right now the Baconator is going to be running. I get back here just in case, he decided to dive in, and I didn't want to get, leadership bombed here. So the lads, and these guys are the hero of this game. Just look at these goblins just charging in here, just taking on these Hargoneth Executioners. And that's going to buy time for my Goblin firing line to start shooting at Marathi a little bit, which is stressing my opponent's micro. He's having to use Marathi and just be, spamming movement. And my other group of Goblin Archers is going to be shooting into this blob here. And I also have the Morgreps Mangy Marauders with 42 models who are going to be coming in hot. And, man, just such an incredibly close game. So the Death Hag's coming in. It's going to be tough to take her down. So I charge in with the Death's Creepers just to pin my opponent's forces and buy time for my Rusty Arrows. And I also get a charge with my Wolf Riders in the back. And obviously they're not going to do a lot, but my opponent's forces are very, very tattered. So it's just going to take a little bit more to get them down. So Marathi comes in here, and you can see she's going to leap in on the Mangy Marauders. But guys, it is the time of the bacon. Here he comes, and he's just coming in. Oh, he's so angry. Look at him. And he gets in there, and he's just going to club Marathi, and she just goes flying off her steed. Oh my god. WURRZAG coming in with the steel chair, just doming Marathi and sending her back to the pits. Just like his haggard, wooden club just on the back of her head. Or what did he hit her with? I think it was the axe. Or is that like a shank of meat he's holding? God, that was... when I did that in the live game, I just yelled out loud in my room. I was like, yeah, get it. Just seeing WURRZAG come in there was so good. But at that point, that is going to be all we need to seal the deal. And my opponent's army is going to get hit with army losses. So, man, really well played my opponent. That was a stressful game. Every time Marathi came in on WURRZAG, had one or two variables gone a little bit different and WURRZAG had taken a little bit more damage on the charge, he could have easily won that game. It was a very, very close one. But, yeah, I mean, I keep trying to experiment with the Crimson Killers. It didn't work out this time, guys, but again, he did focus a lot of his resources. He cast 3 Melkost, he uses Death Hag, Hargoneth, and some Archer Fire. So there was a lot of pressure on them, so there is that to be said, that at least they were a magnet for all that pressure. But aside from that, I like the build. Black Orcs, Goblin Firing Line did their job, Skulker supported. We had our Skirmisher Cav pressuring the Dark Shards. Definitely had the tools we needed. For my opponent's army, I like Marathi a lot in this matchup. I think she's very solid. So is Malekith, because Gaze of Malice can be really, really good against Goblin Archers, but Marathi's a great pick. I think she's very solid against squishy Greenskin Lords, and she can outrun, what's his name? Azak? Yeah, I think she can outrun him, give or take, and even outduel him with the right tools. So yeah, definitely like Marathi. It's cool seeing a Death Hag. I think the Death Hag in the altar is pretty good here. Granted, you have to watch out because Goblin Firing Lines can do pretty well, and she seemed to do well enough on the foot, so I suppose it was a pretty good pick, and yeah, I like the build. The one thing I still am not a fan of Cold One Knights. He used them pretty well. I mean, they did get caught in a couple of compromising positions, and the game was obviously close. But I'm still not a fan of Cold One Knights. I mean, this one group got 148 kills, damn. But yeah, I don't know. I just always find them to be a little bit lackluster with that Rampage mechanic. If one thing goes south, you basically just lose them. But ultimately, I think why they didn't do as well is because the Foot of Gorks just basically decimated them, and that was pretty powerful. So very well played. My opponent, Bob, is great. 168. Look forward to running into you again on ladder. And hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the Baconator with the steel chair. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.